The world we inhabit does not reward those who give freely. In fact, it often punishes them. Compassion, empathy, and generosity are treated as weaknesses, easily exploited by those who understand the laws of power. Meanwhile, individuals who master detachment, who cultivate a mindset of strategic coldness, consistently ascend to positions of influence. Observe the people around you, the well-meaning, the warm-hearted, the genuinely kind. They are frequently overlooked, manipulated, or taken for granted. The selfless are often the first to be sacrificed when power dynamics come into play. Conversely, those who maintain emotional distance, who calculate their actions with precision, invariably occupy the highest rungs of authority across boardrooms, governments, social hierarchies, and even personal relationships. Warmth, while morally admirable, makes one predictable, and predictability is the doorway to exploitation. People exploit what they can anticipate. They control what they can predict. On the other hand, emotional detachment fosters fear, respect, and an aura of untouchability. It grants a type of immunity from manipulation, a shield that warmth cannot provide. Today, we are going to explore 7 essential lessons inspired by the principles of Machiavellian strategy. These lessons are not philosophical musings from a dusty ancient tome. They are actionable guidelines that delineate the strong from the weak in every interaction you encounter. By internalizing them, you will transform into someone who cannot be manipulated, coerced, or ignored. You will learn to command your environment, shape outcomes, and construct an image of authority that makes others tread carefully in your presence. This journey is not about abandoning humanity. It is about embracing strategic foresight, prioritizing influence over sentiment, and understanding the mechanics of power. Begin by acknowledging this affirmation: influence above empathy. Let it anchor your mindset as we delve into the first lesson, the uncomfortable truth about kindness. Kindness is often weaponized against the giver. Every act of openness, generosity, or emotional vulnerability presents an opportunity for exploitation. When you allow others to see your emotional landscape, you inadvertently provide them with a blueprint for manipulation. They learn which levers to pull, which words to use, which weaknesses to exploit. Emotional transparency, in essence, becomes a map that others follow to extract value from you. Conversely, detachment shields your intentions and keeps your motivations opaque. When you are unreadable, your adversaries, peers, or even friends cannot anticipate your responses or leverage your emotions against you. That unpredictability is where true power resides. Imagine 2 acquaintances seeking your assistance. One approaches with a tale of woe, tears in their eyes, meticulously pulling at your emotions to compel compliance. The other presents their request with clarity, devoid of theatrics, stating their needs and accepting your decision without attempting to manipulate your feelings. The first individual may succeed initially because your empathy is exploited, yet their reliability is minimal. When it comes time to reciprocate or honor commitments, they falter, leveraging emotional appeals to delay accountability. The second, however, respects boundaries, honors agreements, and understands the reciprocity that sustains relationships. This is the distinction between being a useful target and being a respected authority. Warmth invites exploitation. Coldness ensures obedience. Human nature respects what is inscrutable, fears what cannot be controlled, and elevates those who inspire both fear and respect above those who simply inspire pity. As Machiavelli observed, he who causes another to rise in power is ruined. Every concession, every unguarded act of generosity at the expense of self-interest places you at risk of being discarded once your utility expires. Recognize that power is never neutral. Each interaction either strengthens or diminishes your position. Retain your leverage. Protect your influence. Affirm, detachment shields me. The second lesson centers on cultivating a cold, analytical mindset, a genius of strategy and observation. Most people navigate life as passive recipients of circumstance. Misfortune prompts lamentation. Betrayal evokes sorrow. Failure triggers excuses. In contrast, a cold strategist reframes adversity as data, as intelligence for action. They do not ask, "Why me?" but rather, "How can I extract advantage from this?" Betrayal becomes insight. Failure becomes a learning mechanism. Heartbreak becomes a guide for safeguarding future vulnerability. While others immerse themselves in emotional chaos, the strategist dissects patterns, anticipates moves, and positions themselves to benefit from the unfolding scenario. Victimhood is a state of reactive thinking. It is emotional, impulsive, and ultimately disempowering. Strategic coldness, however, is proactive, calculated, and transformative. Each misstep, each setback, becomes a step in a larger game plan. A betrayal by a friend reveals character and capability. A missed promotion uncovers systemic dynamics and competitive strategies. Romantic disappointment teaches the tangible cost of overexposure and trust. The cold strategist channels energy into leverage, not lamentation, building foresight and influence while others remain trapped in their feelings. "I adapt swiftly and strategically" should be your affirmation. The third lesson highlights the deceptive nature of emotions. Our feelings, while evolutionary in origin, were designed to protect us in prehistoric contexts, not to navigate the complexities of modern social and professional arenas. Emotional impulses frequently mislead, favoring comfort over effectiveness and sentiment over measurable results. Decisions driven by feelings tend to prioritize short-term solace rather than long-term success. A relationship clouded by affection but marked by disrespect illustrates this clearly. Emotions urge endurance, hope, and forgiveness, while observable outcomes reveal patterns of exploitation, manipulation, and disregard. A strategic mind trusts outcomes over impressions. Success, tangible results, and factual patterns guide decisions, not transient moods. Love is capricious. Fear is reliable. Love may be feigned. Fear is consistent. Fear compels action. Love merely inspires sentiment. This is not a call to cruelty. It is a call to discernment. Allow emotion to serve objectives, not the reverse. Every interaction must be evaluated based on its ability to produce measurable results. Ask, what outcome do I intend? Before granting kindness or avoiding confrontation. Comfort is weakness. Clarity is strength. Affirm, results above relief. The fourth lesson teaches the strategic utility of silence. Many fear quiet moments, rushing to fill voids with words, explanations, and justifications. This reflex, while socially conditioned, surrenders power. Silence, when wielded deliberately, creates discomfort, compels disclosure, and enhances authority. People instinctively seek to alleviate awkward pauses. In doing so, they reveal information, make concessions, or yield to influence. In negotiations, the party that speaks first often reveals vulnerability. The one who masters the pause commands leverage. Strategic silence is not passivity. It is a tool for control, observation, and calculated influence. It transforms interactions into opportunities for insight and manipulation while maintaining an aura of invulnerability. The fifth lesson revolves around selective generosity and calculated reciprocity. Power is amplified when favors, resources, or assistance are provided with intention rather than habit. The indiscriminate, unconditional giver becomes a predictable target. The judicious, deliberate benefactor inspires gratitude, loyalty, and fear of rejection. Every gift, every act of assistance should reinforce boundaries, elevate influence, and position the giver as indispensable yet untouchable. Unmeasured warmth erodes authority. Strategic benevolence fortifies it. The sixth lesson emphasizes the cultivation of a reputation that precedes you. In social and professional arenas, perception often dictates reality. A carefully constructed image of competence, detachment, and calculated ruthlessness ensures that others tread cautiously in your presence. Reputation is both shield and sword. It dissuades attacks, commands respect, and establishes the psychological framework through which others interpret your actions. Every interaction should reinforce this persona, amplifying your perceived power while concealing your vulnerabilities. Reputation is the currency of influence. Invest wisely. The final seventh lesson concerns the relentless refinement of self-discipline. Strategic coldness demands constant vigilance over impulses, emotions, and reactions. The disciplined mind curates responses, eliminates predictable behaviors, and maintains composure under pressure. Self-mastery translates into strategic advantage. Those who remain calm, calculated, and unreadable manipulate circumstances rather than being manipulated. Each decision, each movement, is evaluated through the lens of impact, control, and long-term gain. Emotional volatility is surrendered in favor of tactical consistency, ensuring that setbacks become lessons, obstacles become opportunities, and every engagement consolidates influence rather than dissipating it. These 7 principles, detachment, strategic observation, reliance on results, mastery of silence, calculated reciprocity, cultivation of reputation, and unwavering self-discipline, form the foundation of a mindset that transcends sentimentality and embraces power with intelligence. They do not demand cruelty, but they do require an unwavering commitment to strategic thought, foresight, and self-preservation. By integrating these lessons into daily life, you transform from a predictable, exploitable individual into a force that commands respect, instills caution, and navigates the complexities of human interaction with unparalleled effectiveness. In essence, mastery of these principles is mastery of influence, a life where every decision, every interaction, and every emotion serves a deliberate purpose, advancing objectives and fortifying authority. Internalize these truths. Recognize that warmth and compassion, while noble, can be liabilities in a world governed by leverage and influence. Embrace strategic coldness, not as heartlessness, but as empowerment. Let your actions, your silence, your controlled generosity, and your calculated discipline redefine how others perceive and respond to you. This is the path of power, not by deceit or malice, but by intelligence, foresight, and mastery of human nature. Each day, reaffirm, influence above empathy, detachment shields me, I adapt swiftly and strategically, results above relief. Let these mantras guide you as you step into a realm where fear and respect, not pity and sentiment, dictate the rules of engagement. Silence is often feared. Most people feel compelled to fill every pause with chatter, explanations, or nervous laughter, as if quietness itself is dangerous. Yet it is precisely in the deliberate absence of words that true influence resides. When you resist the instinct to speak, when you allow the uncomfortable stillness to linger slightly beyond what others anticipate, you create an invisible pressure that works in your favor. Strategic silence is a form of authority without aggression, influence without confrontation, and control without physical force. It's the subtle art of letting absence convey strength. For example, if someone asks a question you prefer not to answer, rather than responding immediately, you maintain eye contact, pause, and let the tension build. That delay alone amplifies the weight of your eventual response. Likewise, if someone issues a request that is unreasonable, withholding an immediate response forces them to wrestle with the implications of their demand. Often they will begin to revise or retract it simply because the quiet exposes the vulnerability of their position. The power of silence lies in its ability to provoke discomfort in others. When people are uneasy, they tend to err, reveal truths unintentionally, or provide insights they otherwise would have withheld. However, the potency of silence depends on its source. There is a stark difference between a pause born from fear and a pause born from mastery. Hesitation stemming from anxiety or uncertainty signals weakness. It communicates vulnerability. In contrast, measured silence is intentional, deliberate, and strategic. It demonstrates self-control, composure, and the ability to operate independently of external pressures. When practiced consistently, this skill grants unpredictability. People cannot anticipate your reactions, cannot leverage your emotions, and cannot manipulate your behavior because they are perpetually uncertain of your intentions. Machiavelli observed that deception and subtlety often achieve what force cannot. Silence is a living embodiment of this principle. It conceals your true thoughts while allowing you to gather intelligence on those around you. Emotional discipline in this context equates to psychological dominance. When others fidget, stumble, or overcompensate to fill the void, you are the anchor of control. Start applying this today. In your next conversation, whenever a question arises or someone presents a demand, pause deliberately. Count in your mind, even if only for 3 seconds. Notice how the shift alters the dynamic. Your words will carry weight because they are not given freely. They are earned through patience and calculated presence. Silence should strike fear into those who might challenge you and signal wisdom to those who respect you. It unsettles the impulsive and intrigues the composed. Adopt this affirmation: my silence cuts. Let it remind you that restraint is a form of strength. Power, in its essence, is neither granted nor accidental. It is not the result of luck, inheritance, or charisma alone. True authority is intentional, constructed, and maintained through consistent strategic practice. There is a discernible formula that governs influence, one that often eludes ordinary perception. Understand the core motivations of individuals faster than they can mask them, and then leverage that understanding to guide outcomes. Every human being operates under a set of fundamental impulses: fear and desire. Fear manifests as concern for loss, humiliation, vulnerability, or irrelevance. Desire drives the pursuit of gain, recognition, pleasure, and security. The moment you can identify another person's primary fears and aspirations, you hold the levers of influence over their actions. Most people expend energy concealing these impulses, presenting facades, and cultivating false personas. A strategic mind, however, sees through these layers, observes patterns, and interprets behavior with precision. Consider a scenario where someone projects toughness, insists on self-sufficiency, and claims independence from others. Superficially, they appear invulnerable. Yet beneath the surface lies a universal human truth. They fear dependence, yet crave validation and significance. Understanding this allows you to interact in a way that aligns with their self-perception while subtly influencing their decisions. You offer assistance in a manner that enhances their autonomy rather than diminishes it. By framing support as empowerment rather than indebtedness, you achieve influence without triggering defensiveness. This is the practical application of calculated human insight, observing, decoding, and strategically guiding behavior. Study body language, note what elicits discomfort, and pay attention to what individuals repeatedly brag about, because often boasting is an armor concealing insecurity. Someone who emphasizes wealth may secretly fear inadequacy. Someone fixated on social circles may fear isolation. Someone constantly asserting intelligence may doubt their own acumen. Recognizing these patterns converts perception into power, allowing you to navigate interactions with clarity and control. Machiavelli emphasized adaptability. Those who seek constant success must adjust their conduct to the context and personalities surrounding them. The principles that influence one person may not work on another. For the fear-driven individual, provide reassurance and security. For the ego-driven, offer recognition and prestige. For the opportunistic, present tangible benefits. This is not manipulation. It is strategic alignment, communicating in a language people inherently understand. The cold mind does not waste effort wishing people behave differently. It accepts reality as it is and crafts its approach to achieve desired outcomes. Begin practicing this today. Select 3 individuals in your environment and analyze their primary fears and desires. Observe behavior, note complaints, track resource allocation, and patterns will emerge. Affirm, I calculate power. Equally vital is the cultivation of reputation. Your reputation precedes you. It enters every room, frames every discussion, and colors every decision others make about your character. Many mistakenly believe reputation is about popularity or being liked. It is not. Reputation is about being respected, feared, and acknowledged as someone whose presence carries weight. A strong reputation obviates the need to prove yourself constantly. It establishes authority passively. Consider the most influential people you know, not necessarily those with wealth, but those whose opinions command consideration. Their aura ensures that crossing them carries an implied cost. This is the silent efficacy of reputation. It enforces consequences without action, simply through perception. A formidable reputation does not require theatrics, loud declarations, or performative aggression. True power manifests quietly. It is felt, not announced. Those who underestimate the quietly competent are often the first to face repercussions. The essence of a respected reputation lies in consistency, reliability, and subtle ruthlessness. Deliver on promises even when inconvenient. Speak less and accomplish more. Solve problems efficiently and respond to provocations with calculated precision rather than impulsive emotion. Over time, this builds an image of authority that naturally deters conflict and commands adherence. Surround yourself with individuals who reflect and reinforce your standards. The caliber of your associates signals your own worth. Aligning with excellence amplifies your perceived authority. Associating with mediocrity diminishes it. Strategic alliances, therefore, serve as extensions of your personal brand, shaping perceptions before words are even spoken. Affirm, "My reputation shields and precedes me." Finally, mastering the frame, the narrative of interaction, is the apex of strategic influence. Most people react to circumstances, answering questions, responding to complaints, or accepting pre-established terms. Reactive behavior cedes control and positions you defensively. By contrast, the cold strategist sets the frame, determining the conversation's context, the parameters of decision-making, and the narrative others must navigate. For instance, if confronted with criticism, do not simply justify or defend. Instead, reframe the interaction toward productive resolution, subtly shifting the focus from blame to solution. If pressured for immediate decisions, resist urgency manipulation. Address timing tactfully, ensuring you control pacing and assert the terms of engagement. Setting the frame forces others to operate within your parameters, positioning you as the architect of discourse rather than a responder. Frame control permeates all forms of influence, from negotiation to leadership to personal relationships. It requires situational awareness, patience, and the ability to anticipate responses. The individual who masters frame setting directs attention, defines context, and dictates the structure of dialogue. Reactivity is relinquished in favor of initiative, turning potential conflicts into orchestrated outcomes aligned with strategic objectives. Every conversation becomes a tool for consolidation of influence rather than a battlefield of emotional reaction. The cold mind crafts the environment, while the warm mind is confined by it. The cumulative effect of these principles, strategic silence, understanding human motivation, cultivating reputation, and frame control, forms a comprehensive blueprint for influence and authority. These are not theoretical exercises. They are applied methodologies grounded in observation, intelligence, and calculated restraint. Silence cultivates anticipation and obedience. Understanding desires and fears unlocks leverage. Reputation imposes consequences without action. Frame control dictates the flow of interaction. Together, these techniques empower the individual to operate with clarity, precision, and psychological advantage in any arena. Applying these strategies requires discipline, self-awareness, and a commitment to long-term mastery. Emotional impulses must be subordinated to calculated reasoning. Every interaction, from the most mundane to the most consequential, must be evaluated through the lens of impact and leverage. Outcomes, not intentions, define effectiveness. Warmth, impulsiveness, and reaction are liabilities. Strategic coldness, observation, and restraint are assets. As Machiavelli taught, the intelligent operator navigates power by understanding human nature, adapting conduct to circumstance, and deploying influence in alignment with desired results. In conclusion, the path to unassailable influence and strategic dominance is paved with intentional silence, perceptive understanding of human drives, cultivated reputation, and frame mastery. By consistently applying these principles, you transcend the reactive, emotionally driven majority. You become the individual whose presence commands attention, whose decisions dictate the flow of events, and whose influence shapes outcomes across social, professional, and personal domains. This is power realized not through brute force or overt intimidation, but through meticulous observation, disciplined execution, and unwavering strategic awareness. Internalize the affirmations. My silence cuts, I calculate power, and my reputation shields and precedes me. Let these guide your actions. Anchor your mindset and transform every interaction into an opportunity for influence and mastery. Control over your interactions begins with the ability to dictate the pace, the flow, and the overarching narrative. Most people rush to respond, eager to satisfy social expectations or placate others. The skilled strategist slows the tempo, forcing conversations to unfold at their own deliberate rhythm. This is what it means to seize the frame. Whoever sets the tempo controls the outcome. Frame control is not merely about dialogue, it extends to every facet of your life. It is the deliberate act of leading interactions rather than reacting to them, shaping circumstances rather than being shaped by them, and ensuring that the agendas of others serve your objectives rather than dictating your choices. In negotiations, a person who merely responds to offers relinquishes authority. The true operator reframes discussions, elevating them from a contest of demands to a structured assessment of value, results, and leverage. In relationships, chasing those who distance themselves signals weakness. Creating value that draws others closer signals influence. In conflicts, succumbing to emotional manipulation diminishes your power. Responding with calm, focused reasoning, attention to facts, and solution-oriented strategies reinforces your authority. Machiavelli's observation that a wise person accomplishes immediately what a fool postpones highlights the essence of frame mastery. The adept individual does not allow external forces to define the parameters. They define the parameters themselves, turning interactions into instruments of control. When you remove emotional entanglement, you gain the ability to perceive the broader game being played. Cold detachment allows you to identify patterns, predict motives, and determine whether to participate, redirect, or redefine the scenario entirely. Frame control is not simply tactical. It is existential. It positions you as the architect of circumstances, compelling others to engage on your terms. Practically, this can be applied in everyday encounters. When a question arises that you would prefer not to answer directly, do not refuse outright. Instead, redirect by posing a more advantageous inquiry. When pressured to defend an undesired position, avoid argumentation. Instead, transform the dialogue, establishing a narrative aligned with your objectives. The key principle is simple. You establish the rules of engagement in your life. If the existing game does not serve your interests, you are empowered to redefine it. Adopt this affirmation. I set rules. However, understanding these dynamics is insufficient without embodiment. Intellectual comprehension of strategic coldness does not equate to mastery. To wield influence and power effectively, you must internalize these lessons, transform them into habitual behavior, and become someone whose presence inherently commands respect and consideration. True coldness is not synonymous with the absence of emotion, cruelty, or moral disengagement. Instead, it is a discipline of precision, strategic foresight, and emotional calibration. It entails feeling only what serves your purpose, selectively responding to stimuli and neutralizing impulses that undermine objectives. Communication becomes surgical. Every word chosen, every sentence calculated, delivering exact impact with no excess or deficit. Risk-taking is deliberate, calculated with foresight, ensuring that fear of failure does not paralyze action. Those who embody dangerous coldness operate with such clarity that silence itself becomes an instrument of influence. Others are unsettled not because harm is imminent, but because the unpredictability of thought and action generates tension. Absence transforms into presence. What is unseen becomes a tool for speculation and caution. Unpredictability is among the most potent forms of power. When your intentions are inscrutable, those around you are forced into uncertainty, unable to anticipate your decisions, and compelled to act conservatively or deferentially. Your mere absence can alter behavior, as others speculate on potential strategies, overcompensate to avoid disapproval, or hesitate before action. Influence thus manifests effortlessly. You command through competence, through the projection of strategic calm, and through the aura of calculated confidence. This transformation requires relentless practice and intentionality. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to reinforce composure, to prioritize strategy over reaction, and to select growth over comfort. Daily discipline is the scaffold upon which mastery is built. Consistent application transforms knowledge into identity. Machiavelli's insight that people remember losses more than familial death underscores the cold truth of human prioritization. Individuals act most decisively in matters that affect them directly. Recognizing this allows for preemptive influence and predictive strategy, enabling manipulation of outcomes in ways that may seem almost prescient to the untrained observer. At the heart of strategic coldness lies an understanding of human priorities. Fear and desire, Every individual is motivated by the avoidance of loss, humiliation, and vulnerability, and by the pursuit of gain, status, and fulfillment. Observing these drivers, interpreting them accurately, and responding in alignment with them is the foundation of influence. A cold strategist discerns patterns that reveal weaknesses, aspirations, and concealed motivations. The person who boasts of wealth may secretly fear inadequacy. The one who flaunts a social network may be terrified of isolation. The individual obsessed with competence may be masking self-doubt. Awareness of these subtleties allows for manipulation that is both precise and unobtrusive, influence without overt confrontation. By aligning your actions with the internal logic of others' fears and desires, you guide outcomes while preserving plausible deniability, maintaining authority while avoiding direct opposition. Silence complements this understanding, serving as both shield and lever. While most fill conversational voids instinctively, the strategically cold individual leverages stillness to provoke insight and yield information. In negotiations, refraining from immediate response compels others to reveal their intentions, reassess assumptions, and occasionally self-sabotage. In social interactions, measured pauses cultivate anticipation, focus attention, and signal that you operate according to your own temporal rules rather than external pressure. This mastery of timing transforms words from simple communication into instruments of influence. Silence, thus, is simultaneously defensive and offensive. It conceals your position while extracting critical intelligence. Reputation, as another pillar of influence, is a form of preemptive power. It exists before physical presence, shaping perceptions and expectations. Many misunderstand reputation as popularity or superficial charm. True reputation is rooted in consistent competence, reliability, and the demonstration that crossing your boundaries carries consequences. It is quiet yet imposing, subtle yet undeniable. Those who cultivate this form of reputation need not engage in every battle. Their presence alone enforces deterrence. Excellence, consistency, and discipline amplify this effect. Those who surround themselves with capable, respected individuals inherit reflected authority, while association with mediocrity dilutes perceived strength. Strategic selection of allies and visible collaborations are therefore essential, ensuring that your external environment consistently reinforces your projected power. Affirm, my reputation shields and commands respect. The final dimension is frame control, the conscious determination of narrative and context. Reactivity is relinquishment of authority. Proactive frame setting is assertion of dominance. In every interaction, from the mundane to the high stakes, the strategist reframes the discussion according to desired objectives. Criticism is redirected towards solution-oriented discourse. Urgency is converted into managed timing, and social dynamics are subtly reshaped to align with strategic intent. By consistently applying frame control, one dictates the terms of engagement, compelling others to operate within the parameters you establish. Mastery of frame setting ensures that outcomes reflect your priorities, not the ambitions or emotions of others. When these lessons, strategic silence, human behavioral insight, reputation cultivation, and frame mastery, are internalized, they create a compound effect, transforming both perception and reality. Individuals become magnetic, unpredictable, and inherently authoritative. They influence without confrontation, command respect without force, and navigate complex social landscapes with precision. Each interaction is optimized for advantage. Each response is calculated for maximum impact. Discipline and conscious practice remain central. Emotional impulses are subordinated, strategic foresight is prioritized, and every action is evaluated against long-term objectives. The cold strategist does not merely react to circumstances, they orchestrate them. True mastery is not instantaneous. It is cultivated over time through deliberate practice, reflection, and refinement. Embodying coldness does not require the suppression of humanity, but the elevation of strategic intelligence above emotional reactivity. Each decision, whether in negotiation, personal relations, or social dynamics, becomes an exercise in controlled influence. Authority, in this context, emerges from precision, competence, and the projection of unshakable composure. Silence, presence, reputation, and narrative control coalesce into a holistic system of influence, yielding power that is both subtle and profound. The world, as Machiavelli and countless strategic thinkers have observed, does not favor the kind, the emotional, or the impulsive. It favors those who can think several steps ahead, act decisively, and operate with controlled detachment. In practical application, this requires daily vigilance, monitoring emotional impulses, observing patterns in others, and consciously reinforcing strategic behavior. Every conversation, every negotiation, and every social engagement becomes a laboratory for influence. By embodying precision, anticipating responses, and exercising deliberate patience, one transforms interactions into instruments of power. Influence becomes effortless. Respect becomes automatic. Authority becomes inherent. Unpredictability, carefully maintained, ensures that others cannot leverage your behavior against you, while reputation enforces consequences without direct confrontation. Strategic silence, narrative framing, and human behavioral insight converge to create a presence that is simultaneously commanding and elusive. Ultimately, the dangerously cold individual operates beyond the reactive tendencies that dominate most human behavior. They establish rules rather than follow them, dictate tempo rather than yield to it, and maintain clarity over chaos. Emotional restraint, strategic foresight, and mastery of interpersonal dynamics create a feedback loop, reinforcing influence at every level. Others respond instinctively to competence and precision, often without realizing the mechanisms at work. This is the culmination of cold mastery, power exercised through subtlety, influence achieved through anticipation, and control asserted without visible force. To internalize this, adopt daily affirmations and reminders of strategic coldness. I set rules, my silence cuts, I calculate power, my reputation shields and precedes me. Each serves as a cognitive anchor, guiding decisions, reinforcing composure, and maintaining alignment with long-term objectives. Through consistent practice, reflection, and conscious execution, knowledge transforms into identity, and the individual transcends ordinary influence, entering the realm of those who operate at levels of strategy and authority largely invisible to the untrained observer. The world belongs not to the warm-hearted or the loud, but to those who understand, embrace, and embody controlled detachment. Those who master these principles command situations rather than react to them, dictate interactions rather than follow, and navigate complex social landscapes with foresight and precision. True influence is cumulative. Silence, insight, reputation, and frame control reinforce one another, generating authority that is both respected and feared, subtle and undeniable. By committing to these practices, you transition from being manipulated by circumstance to shaping circumstance itself. Power, influence, and control are not bestowed. They are claimed through strategic mastery, disciplined application, and unwavering adherence to principles of cold precision.